Lately, I've been thinking pretty often about the word serious and what I mean by it, what I'm trying to say with that and with unserious. Probably, yeah, as you can see, I've been thinking a lot about it and all that. And probably because of Visa, because he uses both words a lot and because he has this Substack post about being serious. I recommend it. It's good, I think. And yeah, as the title says, this to me has a connotation of caring, right? Of trying to care and actually meaning what you say and not just saying stuff for the sake of saying stuff. And while listening to a podcast, they were talking about dating and yeah, in this context of getting approached at the gym or something like that, and then that eventually evolved into talking about the dating in general. And one of the hosts talked about some stuff that I would call this kind of being unserious that I don't like.
And I laughed at your jokes because I like to fill the silence, then you must expect that I like you. A lot of the time I don't even like you. I'm
Right.
just
You're a
I'm
good
just
dinner date.
I'm just a fun time, dog.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then I'm like, oh, well, that's why I've had to work going on dates. I literally started working on like, don't laugh if it's not funny.
Yep.
Don't fill the air if you're not interested. Like, don't ask a follow up question if you don't give a fuck because they're.
And yeah, by the way, I like them. I like the podcast and all that. But yeah, as I'm not a hater. I'm not unempathetic as to why they say these things and why yeah they developed this attitude and all that in the first place. I guess it's something that happens depending on the context that you're dating, and dating in general probably is tricky, and yeah, those kind of things happen. I'm not like hating on them for saying this and all that, but that doesn't mean that I don't like that these things have to happen or that they happen or whatever. And I definitely think that the approach that she's taking now of being more true to herself and meaning what she says is better, obviously. And that being serious in general is better than being unserious. For example, being serious in dating is better than being unserious and just being a fun time, right? And yeah, but the thing that hit me when I was listening to this podcast while I was walking, and the thing that hit me and like kind of stopped me in my tracks and like made me get my notes up was like this: don't ask a follow-up question if you don't give a fuck, right? And the way she says it as well, right? And yeah, that line kind of pierced through me, and I kind of like physically said like, oof, and it kind of hurt to hear, right? And that's exactly the kind of thing that I'm trying to avoid, right? This asking a follow-up question just to fill the air. If you don't give a fuck, but you just ask a follow-up question, and I think this kind of dynamic happens a lot, right? And that's kind of like the assumed resting state of conversation, right? You just ask some follow-up question even if you don't give a fuck, and then the conversation continues somehow. And yeah, I don't want that to be the kind of interaction that I had, and it reminded me of an interaction I had this past Oktoberfest in Munich, and I wanted to talk about this interaction and of my process of like trying to care and how this interaction fits with that. Right. So now, yeah, context. This was this past Oktoberfest in Munich 2022. I went with a friend of mine that I met in Munich 3 years before, so 2019, in Erasmus, and yeah, a couple of friends of hers. So yeah, because we went spring summer and we didn't get to Oktoberfest to go to the real Oktoberfest in October, well September, in our first Erasmus, right? So we went this time, and this was the first time Oktoberfest was open after COVID, right? So yeah, I didn't remember that context that well, but I looked it up because the interaction was kind of nebulous in my mind. But yeah, I looked at my notes and at Google Photos, and I saw the photos with the guy and all that, and yeah, it was this most recent time. So yeah, the context of the actual interaction, it's like this is Oktoberfest, so we went to the sports that they have at the tents. There are tents, and outside they have tables. In the tents, you have to you have to book them in advance, and we didn't do it. So yeah, we drank outside, and the four of us, me and my friend and two of her friends, and eventually an Italian guy somehow, like appearing out of nowhere, I guess because he saw us talking in Spanish, heard us, and started talking to us. And yeah, he spoke Spanish well because his wife was Colombian, if I recall correctly. And yeah, anyways, we joined this guy, and for some reason, yeah, after drinking, and we moved tables, we moved with him, and then he went out. The classic stuff that you don't know. Then his battery died. He went to call someone else, and after all these things, somehow we ended up with a Turkish guy. His name was Semit or Samit. I don't remember. I don't exactly remember how to spell it. Well, I never actually spelled it correctly. And yeah, he joined us. I think because yeah, he was like hanging out alone, and we told him, "Hey, what's up?" Blah, blah, blah. And you want to go clubbing with us or whatever. And after that, we went clubbing. And yeah, then after clubbing and after yeah having again some more beers or whatever, and we went to have doner kebab, right? And this is the interaction. So we were going to get some doner kebab, and yeah, he saw in the kebab store like the meat in these sticks that they have at kebab stores, and yeah, he basically said that this doesn't look good, right? He was like, I might get the chicken doner because this doesn't look really good. And yeah, I was like, interesting, right? And because of that remark, and because he has said he was Turkish and all that, I asked him like if he knew good kebab places, right? And he told me a place, and I have it written in my notes and added to my Google Maps restaurants list and all that. And yeah, it's actually some kind of interesting place. It looks like a supermarket, but apparently they do sell kebabs in there. We never went in the trip because we were there like 4 days and we did a lot of other stuff. But yeah, I have it still saved. I found it nice. And yeah, basically the thing about this interaction is that I remember while I was asking these questions, right? While I was asking him like, okay, oh, but so you don't like this? What kebabs do you recommend, right? I was like really trying to communicate that I cared about his answer, right? Like I actually legit said that loud something. Also, we talked in English because I don't speak German either. So I actually said out loud something like, yeah, I actually really care about this, bro, or yeah, some kind of sentence like that, right? And I wanted to communicate that I do actually care about this stuff, right? I actually do want to value his input a lot, and that him telling me some kind of hidden place like that really meant something to me, right? And that I wanted to know more and more about, like, so why do you know this place and all that? And yeah, there was obviously some kind of selfish element. I obviously care about it because if I get a good kebab, that's fucking dope, right? And also because of this kind of feeling smarter than everyone else, right? Feeling smarter than the average tourist or whatever that I value, right? But I also kind of wanted to communicate, or at least that's what I tell myself, that I wanted to communicate that I care about the little things, right? That these little details are what open up the door for more like profound stuff, right? For more, I don't know, for revealing stuff or for things, for the important stories, I guess. And yeah, this is kind of in contrast to this clip, for example, I wrote in my journal about this person like a couple of days ago. He's a Spanish IRL streamer, and yeah, basically that I care in a way that other people don't about the people that you encounter in this kind of party scenarios, right?
No soy un streamer en plan, lo guay de mis IRL no es que me voy a Japón, es que me voy a Japón y te partes el culo mientras estoy en Japón, ¿sabes? Sí. Lo enfoco mucho al humor, yo no paro de hacer coñas, estoy con Jordi, salimos de fiesta y nos reímos de todo el mundo y nos reímos de todo. Plan, mi IRL no es, mira, Japón, qué bonito, y una música feliz de blog. No, coño, mi música es, mira Japón, qué bonito, me acerco a un japonés, di yo Juan Maricón, y el japonés dice, yo Juan Maricón, ¿sabes? Es lo gracioso de mis directos, coño. Sí que es...
Yeah, basically. So here in this clip, he basically says that he's an IRL streamer, basically. IRL. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it right. But yeah, he goes outside with a camera and films his day and whatever. And he's done like some party content and all that. That's pretty funny. And yeah, basically, his fun factor is that he just goes out and does random shit, and yeah, they laugh about everybody. They laugh to everybody, but also from they laugh about everyone. And they, for example, the interaction he talked about was that they take some random Japanese guy and they tell him to say "Illo Juan maricón," which means "Illo Juan fag," the F slur, because Illo Juan is a famous streamer here in Spain, kind of his friend more or less, and basically, so telling some Japanese guy to say some random shit in Spanish that he doesn't understand, essentially. And I like him, and I think that his videos are funny, and his strategy makes sense, and he's gotten a lot of success recently for it. And I don't actually have nothing really against the content, but I think that the vibe I'm trying to transmit, I think it's more real, right? And it works less at the expense of others, and I think in the long run, it's kind of better for that, right? And I think that there's space for this kind of earnest stuff or whatever. And I think there's space for this too. For example, I don't think that you have to become besties with everyone that you meet at a party, or that you have to send each other Christmas cards, or like add each other in social networks or whatever. You don't have to be like best friends with everyone. But that if there's this assumption of from each end of like, I am willing to care about what you say. I've put in some work before in my past about X, and we can try to find some point of connection. Kind of like the opposite of this clip, where it's basically not this clip, like the clip from the podcast at the beginning, right? Like, I'm not necessarily a fan time. I'm not a fun person to hang out with, probably. But if I string you along with me and you're like stuck hanging out with me, at least I care about it, right? At least I'm going to put in some kind of effort to look for the common connections that we have, like to have some common frame, to see what bridges I already have built that can get you the way there for some kind of connection, or like, I don't know, some kind of interesting moment or something like that. And in this particular example, for example, I was trying to get at the fact that I care about his particular experience. This is the X I talk about here, right? Like, I've put in my work, I've put in some work in my past about X, and in this example, I care about his particular experience as a Turkish guy in Germany, for example, for whatever reason, and I want to learn more about the flavor of his particular flavor of those like couple words, Turkish guy in Germany, right? Those are probably like a very wide spectrum of words, and I wanted to learn more about that, for example. And I think that what's your favorite low-key kebab place, like your favorite underground kebab place, is kind of the vehicle, the seed to spark that discussion, right? It's the half-built bridge, like it's me extending my hand in some way, right? And this kind of thing reminds me of Roberto Bolaño's, this book that I still haven't finished, but I'm close, and 2666. And I really like this book so far, and it's because I think that this book treats the characters in the book with this spirit, right? It feels like it's written in a way that treats the characters with respect, and it always tries to go like that extra mile about them. And I don't know, it feels like the author writing the characters went the extra mile to learn about really specific things about the contexts of the places that he's writing about, right? These are characters that live in places and in moments in time, and it seems like he really incorporated that very well into his book. Like, it's well researched, even if it's not. I wouldn't categorize it as a historic novel or whatever, but it feels like it has that spirit of good research or whatever, and also in the ways that the characters behave and all that, and how the characters talk about other characters and all that. And when it doesn't do that, because there are parts, like there's this chunk of the book, like basically, boom, something like this of the book is essentially not that kind of stuff happening way less. Spoiler alert about the book. But in all of that chunk of the book, you really feel like kind of this dehumanizing element that happens when you don't treat the characters with respect, right? When you are not listening to the stories. And I feel like he uses that very well in the book. And for example, that's what I don't want to do, to use. For in the particular example, I don't want to use him as an object, right? I don't want to treat him as an NPC. In some proof in a movie where there's just you as the main character and everyone else is just someone you can use at their expense for them to say "Yo Juan Maricón" for some people 10,000 kilometers away to laugh in their houses about it, right? Something that's funny precisely because they aren't understanding what they are saying, so they kind of look dumb. Yeah, it looks like I don't want that to be what I do, right? Yeah, and I wanted to end kind of with this, and to be clear, I don't really think I succeeded in the interaction, and that's probably why I remember it and why the clip in the podcast hit me. I probably failed at it very hard, and I just sounded like a regular guy, drunk, asking for some random shit out of boredom or out of stereotyping because he's Turkish or whatever, or yeah, something like the guy from this clip, right? Just some random drunk shit that you do for fun. And I feel like this because I don't actually remember a lot of the details of the conversation. Probably the alcohol had something to do with it, but yeah, I don't know. I don't remember a lot about him or his life story. I don't even remember if I just don't remember or if I didn't actually ask. And if I didn't ask, I don't remember why, because a lot of things were happening. Like there was this other Italian guy who was like very talkative as well, and who basically, and there was a lot of movement in the night and people who were hooking up with each other. So there was a lot of stuff happening. So there were a lot of reasons not to remember stuff, but I still feel bad about it. Right? I have this feeling of not actually having cared that much, even though I said it, and I feel like this is even worse than not caring. Right? Faking caring is even worse. Because, for example, this guy at least is like, he's honest about it, right? He's honest about just being some kind of fun streamer, and his value in quotations is being funny, right? Bringing some fun, some entertainment to something that can be boring, which is IRL streaming, which is just walking around, right? So he brings fun, interaction, and some kind of interactivity, and that is really cool. And yeah, I don't want, in escaping something that I feel is bad, faking that escape, right? And it's why the line in the podcast hit me so hard, I think, because I'm not sure if, for example, if he believed me when I said that I care, right? And maybe he was actually right in not believing me when I said that I care, right? And yeah, that kind of, I think about it, right? And yeah, to not end the video in the low note, I do want to say that I do remember the interaction pretty strongly, and I knew that I was trying to communicate something, in my opinion, profound, right? Even if it sounds self-aggrandizing to say. So I know that I did at least care about something, and maybe the failure was in the small things, right? Maybe I failed to get to the object level thing that I care about. Actually, I do actually care about kebabs a lot, and when I was in Germany, I really liked this one specific kebab place by my university because the bread was really soft and it was like handmade, I think, and you could see how they made it, and the meat was also good and all that. So yeah, I had this actual feeling of actually caring about the object level thing we were talking about, which were kebab shops. So I had the bridge half built already. I have some half-built bridge. I knew that kebabs are I'm not sure how common knowledge this is, but kebabs are basically Turkish immigrants to Germany, and they were created there in Germany, right? So they are kind of German food, but by Turkish. So this element isn't like just stereotyping and racism. It's an actual thing that happened. But yeah, I do care about it, and I would have liked to know more about the actual place that I did take notes of, and still to this day hold on to the information, but I don't have a lot of detail about the information, and that's what pains me, right? So maybe it was just logistical. My failure was just logistical, and it wasn't kind of existential and me being just so bad. And it was maybe just kind of the dominoes not falling in the right place, but me trying at least to place the dominoes. That part was at least there. But yeah, I at least knew that I was in a phase where I was trying to like care more about stuff, but kind of didn't have the language for expressing it, I guess. That I, unlike others, actually cared. Yeah, I'm not sure if that's still the right frame, but that's kind of what I wanted to express. And yeah, this is my video. This video is in my series of 100 videos, and yeah, that's it. Bye.